3, 2.
Hi, this is Casey Christensen. I am a lead software tester and technical representative for Magicom Corporation.
And I'm Tim Gifford, Senior Technical Services Representative for Gifford Microcomputer Associates. Today we're going to show you how to install
Okay.
this RT-AC68U series router. Next slide. The router installation can be completed in 3 steps. It's fast, it's easy, and it's effective. All the parts are labeled on the router for convenience. The quick internet setup wizard automatically detects most network settings, and after initial setup and configuration, the router requires minimal effort for sustained use. Next slide.
Perfect. So, as we get started, there are a couple of terms that are unfamiliar to a lot of people, so we just wanted to go over these 3 terms before we get started. First is WAN, which is just Wide Area Network is what it stands for, and it's just another name for the internet. Another term that we wanted to cover was LAN, and this stands for Local Area Network, which is just a local network that our devices are connected to. And the last one that we wanted to talk about is the Ethernet. And a lot of you may have heard of Ethernet cables, and this is just the most common and the most common standard for allowing 2 computing devices to communicate over a wire. Next slide.
So all you need is an internet connection, 2 Ethernet cables, and a browser in order to get this thing set up. It's pretty darn easy. Everything else is actually inside the box.
Perfect. Some of the materials that are included in the box is the router itself, of course, and as well as a power adapter that you can just plug into your wall's outlet, and then the quick start guide, which is just a user manual to get you through different processes and configuring the router. Next slide.
So here we've got a quick reference figure for you so that you can get an idea of what the router is and what's on it. You'll find there on that left portion of the picture it shows you the locations of the various LEDs. You've got LEDs that mark up the LANs, the WANs. There's actually a couple of LEDs there for the wireless connectivity, the wireless antenna, which is actually included with the router as well. And then there on the right, you're going to find that there's all of your ports and connectors, including your Wi-Fi one there on the left, and then several LAN ports there on the right. There's also a reset button and a power button and a power in location for you to plug power into your router. Next slide.
Okay, so setting up the router, it really is super easy. How easy, you may ask? It's just try these 3 steps. Plugging it in is number 1, turning it on, and setting it up. It really is just that easy. Next slide.
So the first step, plugging it in. In most home networks, the router bridges the gap between your WAN or internet and LAN local network devices. Next slide. So on here, you'll see that you've got your LAN devices, things like your PC or other laptops or printers on your local network there on the right. And then on the left, you've got your modem or other devices that lead to an internet connection on the left. And what happens is you'll plug everything in on the left. That has a cable that goes into the WAN spot. And then everything on the right has cables that'll go into the LAN spot. And you'll just use that Ethernet cable that you had to plug those both in. They're actually labeled and indicated, the WAN area with a little world picture with a swirl around it, and then the LAN cables actually have a little picture of the end of an RJ45 jack. That's basically the end of the Ethernet cable you're holding, and that'll indicate that those spots are for LAN. And then lastly, of course, you're going to plug the power in to the little transformer spot there. There's only one place to put it, and then plug the rest into a wall, right? Next slide.
Okay, perfect. And once you have it plugged in, next you have to just flip that on switch to turn it on, and then reset all other connected devices, whether that's connected to the modem that your router is plugged into. You need to reset the router itself, and any other devices plugged into those. And this is specifically important because most devices have auto-detected settings which will activate as they are reset and as they are turned on again. And next slide.
And then lastly, set it up. Uh, this step incorporates the quick configuration you're going to run. To do this, what you'll do is connect to the router using a typical web browser. And this will be on a device that's already in your LAN network. On there, you've got a URL, so 192.168.1.1, or straight to that address on screen, http router.asus.com. And then when you get there, it's actually going to take you straight to the page with a quick internet setup. Next slide. And this is where you'll start.
Perfect. So this quick setup is, like it says, it's quick and it's easy. The first two steps actually should be completed automatically because the router will detect the internet connection settings, and the page will advance you directly to step number 3, which is the router setup.
In the network name SSID text box, you're going to designate a name for the wireless network that this device can host. And in the network key text box, go ahead and set a password for that wireless network. You want to pick something secure that people wouldn't likely guess. And then ensure that the copy 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz setting box is checked. This router is capable of broadcasting at 2 different frequencies. So if you want to, you can separate the networks, but typically speaking, most people will host one network over both frequencies for more speed. Then go ahead and click Apply at the bottom of the page. Next slide.
Okay, and this will bring you to the home screen. And this home screen will just show you how effective this router is. As we had said earlier on in this presentation, this router has a lot of different features. We're not going to talk about those specifically because this is just the general instructions, but you can find more of these instructions in the user manual that came in the box with the router. Next slide.
So when your router's correctly set up, you're going to look at it after it's done its power reset, which will take about 45 seconds. And there's going to be blue lights on here that indicate connectivity with the internet, your LAN, and then the wireless and power, of course. When these 5 LEDs are on, your router is up and running. Good job. Next slide.
Okay, so lastly, we want to talk about a few troubleshooting tips for you. If your router has the power light on, but the internet light is not on, first you make sure that your router is plugged in, of course, and then you can check your cables, make sure they are plugged in correctly and that you have internet connection. If that doesn't work, then you can restart your modem and wait for a while for it to fully reboot, and check if the connected interface to the modem is blocked by any port security, or if it's disabled, or if it's properly configured. And if all else fails, you can call your internet service provider and they will be able to walk you through step by step how to fix your problem. Next slide.
And then when all else fails, if you want, you can do a full factory reset to undo all the settings you've done to give yourself another shot at step 3. Go ahead and look at the back of the router. You're going to find a little reset button. Hold that down for 15 seconds, and the router will reset back to the way you got it before you pulled it out of the box. Next slide.
And that concludes the basic setup instructions for the ASUS RT-AC68U series router. Thank you very much for attending this presentation. Any additional configuration information can be found online at ASUS support website. Thank you.